Hello and welcome to Capital Week with David Owen. We're in day 9 of the legislative session, the 96th legislative session, and it looks like, David, you're joining us from the balcony over the Senate.
Our legislature still has the lieutenant governor serve as president of the Senate. So Larry Roden stands at that rostrum that you see at the far end of the building and conducts the sessions each day and serves as the moderator or chair of those sessions. 9 women serve in this legislative session in the Senate, and there's 21 over in the House, and we had that as our background last week. A record number of women in this legislative session with a total of 30.
Things are picking up a little bit as they kind of get off to a slow start, and then things get pretty frantic. How many bills have we seen so far, and what's been going on?
We've seen 81 bills submitted in the House, 98 in the Senate for a total of 179. I did a quick check on last year, and at the same point, we had 150. So most sessions see somewhere around 500 bills. These are usually the department bills, the ones that are cleanup, the ones that are fairly routine. We have 1 week left to get bills sponsored, written, and submitted. So we'll see a quick increase soon.
Now, House Bill 1046 went in front of the House State Affairs Committee on Friday. Tell me a little bit about what happened. I know you had testified for it, and I know you called it a reasonable reaction to an unreasonable event. Tell me a little bit about this bill.
1046 offers some liability limitations related to people getting COVID. It assures businesses that we're not going to get sued for things that we could not have known. Some language was changed, and a concept people should be familiar with is grossly negligent. Unless a business has done something very wrong, we're not going to encourage class action suits or suits from people that are opportunistic. We've had 95,000 confirmed cases of COVID. Over 1,600 of those have resulted in death. We have paid out over $325 million in unemployment insurance, 8,000 claims in 1 week alone. Last spring. This is an unusual circumstance, and we think it's appropriate to put some kind of limitations on the temptation to profit from this kind of situation.
And this bill did get amended before it was voted on, correct? And I believe that was to address some concerns by the trial lawyers.
Yes, we put a sunset on it, so it will really apply to a time period that starts January of last year, 2020, and goes through December of next year, 2022.
Now, we had quite a bit of groups that appeared in support of this bill. There were a handful of people that spoke out against the bill. What were some of the concerns that were expressed?
We had the head of the AFL-CIO, the SDEA union, that's the teachers union, and AARP on behalf of the long-term care patients expressed some concerns that we were locking away and protecting too many kinds of businesses. They actually suggested that this limit be set at 500 employees. Their feeling is the very rich corporations, especially those that are multinational, can defend themselves and don't need a law to protect them. We disagreed with that on a number of grounds. This gets into employment law. 500 employees seems like a lot, but you've got some regional and local, like grocery chains. Plus, let's take 3M. They have 2 plants. They make N95 masks right here in South Dakota. We didn't think a flat employee number was the way to limit this.
And I believe that did get sent out of the committee with a 12-1 vote, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So it goes to the floor of the House. We'll talk about that at the end, but it did, as we say, come out of committee 12-1. The one vote against it was Minority Leader in the House, Jamie Smith. And he made it clear he likes the bill, but he was more sympathetic with the limitations the unions wanted. he wanted a way to express that. So at least in committee, he voted no.
And this will likely, because it did not come out unanimously, will likely get a chance to discuss this further on the floor, correct?
Right. It will be on the floor tomorrow or Wednesday, which gives us a chance to talk to all 70 members of the House and answer their questions.
Terrific. Let's move on to an exciting subject on Senate Bill 49. I know you love talking about levies. So why don't you tell us what's behind this?
We've spent a lot of time at the South Dakota Chamber developing an expertise about property taxes, to which most people ask, why'd you do that? Well, property taxes are really important. And in an oddity, the state legislature actually determines what your local school property tax levy is going to be. We do that because the state is responsible for education in South Dakota. South Dakota has an ingenious system to limit revenue from taxes, limit revenue to cities and counties, and the legislature does school taxes. And we use increasing values of homes. Everybody wants their home to be more valuable. But if your home's more valuable, your taxes will go up. So we use a system that recognizes that increase, limits the revenue, and the legislature limits what the mill levy is for general fund. One other piece of background is general fund levies for schools is the only place that we have different tax rates for different classes of property. So let me tell you what Senate Bill 49 will do, and then we can talk about how that gets applied. We have three classes of property in South Dakota: commercial homeowners and agricultural land, not the farmer's home, but the land that's in production. Currently, let's take a look at commercial property. This year's tax levy is $6.68 and that will be reduced for next year's payment to $6.52 that $6 is this: you pay that mill levy per $1,000 of value, and I'll talk about dollars in a minute. Homes pay $3.22.9 for every $1,000. That will go down 2.4% to $3.15.3. Ag is $144.3, goes down to $140. What's that mean in dollars? We always compare this to a $500,000 piece of property. That's a nice home, fairly mid-sized businesses, and a really scrawny farm. So you apply this levies to a $500,000 business, their taxes for the general fund will go from $3,341 to $3,262. That's a savings of $79. Homes go from $1,614 to $1,576, and the farmland will go from $721, again for a $500,000 value, to $704, about a 2% tax reduction. Other things affect your taxes. So as your homes go up, that will be applied to this reduced value. But local taxes pay about 37% of your schools. The state aid formula, the state itself pays for the rest. And that's why the legislature sets your local levy.
So before we go on to some other bills, we have this COVID year. We have some changes in the way things are being done. Now, traditionally, people would have to come to peer to testify in front of a committee at one of these hearings. We have had some call-in testimony from time to time, but they've made some changes to make it much easier to get your voice heard. Tell me a little bit about what they're doing.
Well, let me start by saying the Capitol itself is very COVID conscious. Masks are required in the end of the building where the Senate meets. They are suggested in areas where the House meets. So most people are wearing masks. In fact, the only 2 or 3 lobbyists I know that don't wear masks have already had COVID and are immune. But the legislature is encouraging remote participation. you will find in the comments, and Dirk can be more specific about this, there is a way to use the Teams platform to testify in front of a committee visually. We've been doing call-in testimony for a number of years, and there's conference call numbers, and it seems to be working fairly well. In fact, the LRC, the Legislative Research Council staff, is staying in their offices on the third floor. Most of the hearings are on fourth floor, but they're using Teams to sit with their committee and do their services so that they're distant, and we're trying to keep the staff safe using the remote system.
Interesting. And yeah, we'll put those links down in the comments. I believe you have to actually express your interest to testify for a committee, and then they send you that Microsoft Teams link later, correct?
Yeah, there'll be two links. One will tell you the process for using Teams, and the other one actually has all of the email addresses for each committee. So you can send a note to that committee saying, I'd like to testify. You really need to do this a day or two ahead of time. And what they have done is get everybody in a queue. So mainly paid lobbyists are in the Capitol, and other people are using this system, which carries with it the advantage of not having to be on the highways. January and February is not the slickest. Well, it's the slickest time to be on the roads, but that's not safe.
Let's look at maybe just take a quick look at some of the other bills. What else is catching your eye, and what do you think is interesting that's coming up or has had a hearing?
One of the great topics that we face in the future is electric cars. Global climate change is a topic. So House Bill 1053 addresses a concern that says electric cars don't buy gas. We raise money to build roads and fix roads through a gas tax. Well, if you're not buying any gas, you're not paying your share. You're not helping out. And those cars are heavy. Now, we only have about 220 electric cars in the state. So you can view that two ways. Well, there's only 200. Why worry about it? Our attitude at the South Dakota Chamber is this is the perfect time to find a way to tax them for roads. So this is $100 added to their license plate registration. The average person probably pays $200 in gas tax. So we're starting with a fee aimed at electric cars of $100.
Some others, HB 1061 is looking to prohibit smoking marijuana in motor vehicles.
Yeah, this one's easy to laugh at. You're going to prohibit smoking marijuana and its derivatives in a vehicle, assuming secondhand smoke's an issue. Passing a bong around in a car is probably not a good idea. And in fact, when I first read the bill, I thought, well, how stupid can we get? Keep in mind, last November, we approved not only medical marijuana, but recreational. And while there's a lawsuit going on about that, we, on all likelihood, by sometime next year, will have recreational marijuana. So if marijuana is legal, we don't have any statutes to say you can't use it while you drive. So we're going to have part of what we have to do this session and next is start building this infrastructure to control marijuana as a legal product.
Senate Bill 74 looking to revise provisions regarding drones. Is this something that's kind of been in the works, or is this new?
No, we've been talking about drones for a while. One of the concerns is we don't want people spying on each other. We don't want them hovering outside your window or flying over your property. This bill strikes some of the original language we used a couple of years ago and really focuses on people that are using drones in a commercial sense or an emergency sense that might catch somebody accidentally in a frame. And it just assures people that if you're doing this, work related, you've accidentally caught somebody, that's not a violation of the law. So it makes it a little cleaner on what is and isn't going to be considered a violation.
Move on to Senate Bill 87, which is looking to exempt health benefit plans sponsored by nonprofit agricultural organizations.
Farm Bureau is bringing this, and it looks like it may be a long-term answer to the challenge of getting health care and health insurance to make it more affordable. In Tennessee, the Farm Bureau local chapters all formed together to create a self-funded pool. There is a similar thing among some collections of churches. It makes it easier without having to go through the creation of an insurance company to pool your resources, do a cost share. It will start with agricultural nonprofits. If we see how that goes, there's some potential down the road that we could see some small business groups trying to do the same thing. So we're going to watch this and see how it goes.
And tell me a little bit about Senate Bill 86. This involves the Secretary of State's certifying of initiatives.
One of our issues that's in court with Amendment A on recreational marijuana is we decided about 4 years ago constitutional amendments should be one topic only. We haven't had the courts kind of comment about this. This proposal is going to say, give the Secretary of State a role in saying in advance as people file for initiatives or amendments, whether it's a single subject. This is going to require some debate, but this might be one of the helpful things we go through in the early parts of the initiative and referendum process to kind of clean it up so we can do it with more certainty. The South Dakota Chamber has been involved in leading some kind of statewide ballot campaign each of the last 9 elections. It's an important part of how we do policy in South Dakota, and this looks like it might be a helpful adjustment in that process.
Senate Bill 71 is looking to make Juneteenth Day a working holiday. This would be on June 19th. Tell me a little bit about this.
This is an important date in the African American community, and for those that have followed the horribly difficult issue of slavery in this country. This is the date in 1865 that the enslaved people in Texas first learned that 2 years earlier, President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. So it's significant in terms of them being aware that they were no longer an enslaved people. It's been suggested to be a working holiday here to increase awareness of the issue. We have about 1% or slightly more of the population in South Dakota that is Black. But I put this in front of my board just so they would know about it. And a couple members have said, look, don't get glib about this. If this is important to a segment of our population, as we accommodate and celebrate and become inclusive with minority populations in the workforce and in our culture, this is something that we should be at least aware of.
So coming up this week, 1046 will make it to the floor. Tell us a little bit about what you expect with that and anything else that's coming up this week.
Our indications, like I said, Tuesday or Wednesday, that should be on the floor for a debate. It will take a simple majority, 36 votes, to send it over to the Senate. This is what we do as lobbyists. We'll be working to find all of the House members, answer questions, see where they are on it. We expect it to pass, but I think some people will be sympathetic to those union arguments, and I expect a handful to vote no for that reason, and maybe we can find another way to accommodate that. So that's probably the most significant thing following the bills that's going to come up in this week. As I said, we have this week to finish writing bills, getting sponsors, so we have one more week for those bill numbers.
Well, we covered a lot. Anything else on your mind as we move forward?
We're going to see a number of bills like we do every year that are going to change the initiative and referendum process for putting laws and amendments on the Constitution. Some of those bills are going to be designed to improve the system. But one of the things that I caution about personally, and that the Chamber is concerned about, is that we do changes that improve the process. Here's my warning to legislators, and here's something I'm going to ask our members to kind of think about. South Dakota was the first state to allow initiative and referendum. South Dakota voters like the initiative process. If we're going to do things, there's a bill here that says, well, you got to provide a copy of the initiative to every voter, mail out ballots, and that should be done at the sponsor's expense. The South Dakota Chamber has not taken an official position. I will cite it as an example that's trying to put more and more burden on people for bringing those processes, and I think that could have the reaction of having South Dakota citizens feeling crabby about putting limits on their ability to do initiatives and referendums. Each election, ballot measures have more voter participation than many of the statewide ballot measures. In the most recent election, all three ballot measures had more votes cast for them than either the Public Utilities Commission race or the congressional race held by Congressman Johnson. So my caution and my parting thought, since you asked, is let's be cautious about taking that right that the Constitution gave our citizens back in 1889, I believe, and doing too many limits.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Dirk.
Thanks for joining us with another edition of Capital Week with David Owen from the South Dakota Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We're with you every Monday, and we'll be back next Monday with another edition. Thank you.